Welcome to Mindfully Integrative Podcast with your host, Dr. Damaris G. Mindfully Integrative is a podcast discussing ways toward mindfully incorporating integrative health into our lives. This podcast will have informative resources, fun topics, interviews, and discussions relatable for today with a true mindful perspective in a mind-body, holistic life approach.
Hi, how are you? This is Damaris, Maria Grossman, Doctor of Nurse Practice, and we're talking about gut probiotics. First off, if you're looking at the video, I'm going to show you different ones. I'm not sponsored by any of this. I just want to tell you ones that I've used before and what is like by the research and how much I recommend. So when I want you to look for probiotics for your body, one, it depends upon what is going on. And two, I want you to look for 10 probiotics minimum strains in your body and at least 5 to 10 billion CFUs. Now, the ones that I take actually are higher amounts. I've taken one for critical care around 8 billion CFUs, and the other one is an immune platinum, and that's been 90. It's really what's in there. And then for children, anywhere between 5 to 10, and that one can range about 6 to 10 strains. And then there are some very specific probiotics out there, like acromansia to help curbing weight loss. And that's more stowed in the colon. And I'll talk more about that at another time. But also, probiotics are beneficial microorganisms, and you'll hear a lot about why they're used, because most of the time individuals over time, or just even from birth till people eat and grow and such, that their little gut health has decreased and has caused a dysbiosis. And dysbiosis means a dysregulation of the good and bad flora within the body. So, and it's either in the wrong place or it is not being utilized correctly. I just took actually one right now. And your digestive health is a factor. And you'll hear a lot about how your gut is your second immune system. And when we do not have that proper symbiotic or balance within the gut microbiome, there's a problem. So I will talk another time about viruses and the viral in the body itself, and benefits of that and not benefits. But overall, when you have the proper amounts of microorganisms balanced, your body is in a good place. So I'm going to go over some of the major microorganisms in the gut, and there are hundreds of them. So and it's kind of in infancy in a sense when it comes to the research on how the benefits, even though if you read back, Hippocrates would say, what you put into your body and, what you eat is really your medicine. And that is really fact. The problem is over time, changes in our food systems, changes in our stressors, changes in lifestyle things, have factored out and how things were processed and made. And then our bodies have, evolved and has changed our microbiome throughout. And, there's good and bad to that, right? But when you hear someone say they have like a dysbiosis, that has to do with an irregularity of balance of microbiomes, good and bad. And then if you hear that word leaky gut or intestinal permeability, is that those junctions within the GI tract have, they separate slightly, but when they really separate, then all kind of like the floodgates open and you've got all the gunk kind of going through. So imagine like a sewer, your pipes are fine, but say there's a small crack you might be able to cover, but over time, if you have a degradedness of those pipes, eventually they'll open and the floodgates will literally open and all that junk or that sewer could possibly go into your home, or could back up into your bathroom, into your house, what have you. So think of it like you don't have the right walls, that's your leaky gut. And if you don't have the right formula or products to like balance out the system, your body will then kind of feel gunky and icky and eventually will just be blocked up. So let's talk about when I say 10 probiotics in your system. Let's first talk about different ones. Okay. So first ones that most people know about, it's called lactobacillus. There's a big thing where, there's different companies that are like, oh, this is the best brand and I'm doing this for you. And, not all of them are made equal, but understanding what they are for, the probiotics, is helpful. And I'm just giving you an overview and where the research comes in recently. So let's first talk about lactobacillus. So lactobacillus is a lactic acid bacteria. Its most common species are acidophilus, and you'll see a couple of them. They'll be like, they only have one or two strains. Like when someone says, oh, I've got a probiotic and it's only got one or two strains, got to tell you that's not going to be enough. But hey, it's something. So what is acidophilus and why are most people usually taking that one? It aids in lactose digestion and the gut flora, and it supports the immune system. First, I'll tell you, majority of probiotics are supporting the immune system. Even if they sound like a bad probiotic, they're supporting the immune system depending upon the location of where they are. And when those bad bacteria supposedly go into the wrong part of your GI system, then that's when it's a problem. So acidophilus, why this one's so common and why it's used so much is because a lot of people have a lactose intolerance and it's good for digestion. So then the next one is Lactobacillus rhamnosus. This helps with preventing diarrhea and the gut lining, a little bit of weight loss. And then there's another one called Akkermansia, but that one's in the colon. And we'll talk further about that when I talk about weight loss. That's another probiotic used for that. The next one is called Lactobacillus. So these ones that I'm going over right now are Lactobacillus, and then they have a secondary name. So Lactobacillus reuteri. So this one has to do with inflammation. It promotes oral health and improves skin integrity. So this is kind of, if you notice in your body, your gums are a little bleeding or just kind of gunky, or you're starting to get more plaque, your microbiome is off in that sector. So you would use a little bit more of that reuteri kind of blend. You would look for probiotic blends for oral care. So when you're looking for probiotics, you're looking for where there is a discomfort, dysbiosis, and irregularity in your system that probably needs to be changed. Most of the time, a good majority, not every company, but there are some good quality companies out there that are at least giving you a decent range of probiotics that you can at least kind of trust. So then there's one called Lactobacillus plantarum. And this one's for like irritable bowel syndrome and more, again, on the gut barrier. And Lactobacillus casei, which improves digestion, infection, inflammation. I will also say my caveat with probiotics, you could benefit always by good fiber, hydration. The basic stuff with lifestyle medicine is hydration, sleep, reducing your stress, keeping a good amount of fiber in your diet. And these will all come in conjunction to helping with the microbiome. And then when I look at like a bottle, so this one bottle that I have in my hand, it's critical care. It says 80 billion CFUs. And if I start looking down at the different lactobacilluses, this one does have plantarum. This one does have the rhamnosus. This one does have the acidophilus. It also has infantis, but that's for bacillus. It also has the cassia. And cassia is for the digestion. And then it has a number of other lactobacillus ones. So I'm not going over every single one because there's so many, but I'm just giving over like a quick overview of that one. So then in this cultured one that I have here, It also has biobacterium. Now, sorry, my sayings or my pronunciations are not great. I'm just going over that. So biobacteria are beneficial for the gut, found like when you're from infant birth. So when children are given probiotics, like I gave my son probiotics because he had a severe eczema and also a milk sensitivity. So we were giving him probiotics for children and an omega-3 to help with his gut lining. And over time, it really helped. And we modified what we were feeding him. And eventually the inflammation went down. So this bifidobacterium can usually be given to children. So I have a bottle of a kid's version. And in here they do lactobacillus, but they do have an array of bifidobacterium. So the number ones that are usually pretty common are bifidium, which is for immunity health and digestion. It's Bifidobacterium longum, which reduces the gut inflammation. There is Breve, which aids in digestion and reduces bloating and respiratory health. There is one called Lactus, which is for immune support in IBS and diarrhea. And then there's one called Infantis. That's usually what is given to kids and infants for colic. So Bifidobacteria infantis, that is usually given for their gut health, usually when they're now the main thing is how much is given, and there's still some research on where that's the right amount, and especially it comes down to about a little baby is going to have a smaller microbiome and obviously an adult, so the amounts and the dosages are has to be adjusted with your healthcare provider or neonatal specialist. So that is dependent. But I will say a child, like an infant, it's usually range between 1 million to 2.5 infant wise. And then usually it's around 5 billion CFUs for children under the age of 10. And then after the age of 10, they can go to an adult CFU around 15 to 30 CFUs, 30 billion CFUs. This means like the collective CFU of the gut biome. So when I say CFU, I'm talking about the colony forming units within. So the bacteria, because it's micro. That's what I mean CFU. And what's the right dosage is really depending upon the person, what is going on, but initially I would say for children, it's like 2.5 to 5 billion. For the average person, it's around 10 to 20 billion, depending upon the need. And then obviously if there's ailments or a major health issue, the higher can go up to about 50 to 80 billion. So when I'm in I'm in a post-surgery time, I went up to 80 billion to work on my immune system immensely. That is not for the average. Most of the time you could be at a 10 to 50 billion range. I like it to be at least 10, preferably 20 billion CFUs. And that's, again, colony forming units of the probiotic. Okay. When you're initially starting probiotics, they will make you poop or try to get you unconstipated. And basically it's trying to balance out what junk was in there before and clean out all the kind of the gunk there. So you're going to go from constipated to a little ruddy to then eventually balance. Think of it like it's cleaning out the junk. So to clean it out, it's got to clean out the pipes. And if your pipes are dirty, they got to be clean. In conjunction with that, always is going to be hydration, reducing your stress, movement, fiber, things of the basics. But we're just going over why probiotics are beneficial. Now, high doses of probiotics is over 50 billion. And very rarely do I tell people to take those unless there's like an illness or there's other health issues going on. You can go under 40 and be fine. So let's go over the next probiotic, which is I'm saying it wrong. Don't mind me, but It's basically for Candida. This one is called Saccharomyces. So it is a yeast-based probiotic. This one is to help with Candida, traveler's diarrhea, and a variety of kind of mold in Candida type issues. And it's usually kind of like, and it's also very good for someone with like a UTI. They might have those needs. Women's blend, there's a women's blend with this in it, in addition to the bifidobacterium and the lacto. The second one from that would be like the main one that everybody usually knows is Saccharomyces boulardii. So that's a pretty big name. That's used for Candida and also to treat severe diarrhea or traveler's diarrhea. Now, these next ones I'm going to go over, you're going to think, oh my God, these are bad for you. But they're not necessarily bad. They just have to be in the right part of the GI system. So the GI goes from your mouth all the way down to your anus, okay? And so you need good microbiome from that tube all the way out. So if we don't have good microbiome through it all, that's a problem, right? So if you don't have the right amount in your mouth all the way down, eventually there's going to be a degraded immune system. So streptococcus. So it's beneficial in digestion also, but it has to be in the right area and it has to be balanced. And when it's not, you're going to get lactose problems. You're going to get skin issues. You're going to have large amounts of inflammatory issues and infections. But if it's in the right area, it's okay. Enterococcus, which is a prebiotic, and it helps balance your gut flora. You know, this is one where there has been research where they say if your kids played in the dirt or you lived on a farm, you would have the right amount of microbiome instead of just being hand washed with hand sanitizers all the time. Your body actually has a quality amount of dirt to kind of build up that immune system. So this is actually the one that you get from being outside in the dirt and around animals, livestock and pets and stuff. And in a way, if you have a small percentage of this, a microdose and such in your body, your immune system will build up. It's when you have excess of it is when it's a problem. The next one, you know, you'll hear and people will be like, oh my God, E. coli. So Escherichia coli, you know, you'll immediately say this is not the right thing for your body. No, it's not that it's not the right thing. It just has to be in the right location. It should be in your colon. It should be nowhere else but in your colon, in mostly the distal end of your colon. When it starts creeping up into your small intestines or into your gut, or you ingest it in your mouth, the upper part of your GI, then that's when you start getting really sick. Okay. When, you know, your babies and they, you know, you've put it in your eye, you get pink eye, you put, you know, it's in places outside of the colon, E. coli should not live, you know, it's not there, but it can cause and be harmful when it's not in the right place. But when it's in the right place, it's good for the gut health, if that makes sense. So some of these things, it's just location and also the amount. If there's not the right balance, a dysbiotic amount, that's a problem. So good and bad, it's just a matter of location, amounts, and how your body is reacting to it and able to kind of process. This is one called bacillus, which is spore forming. This is used in like harsh environments. It helps with digestion, Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus subtilis, and Bacillus callus. One is for immune support, one's for gut health, and one helps with gut infection associated with antibiotic diarrhea. Now, this is excellent for taking after an infection to help bring back the immune support. This will help usually post, or usually when you do take probiotics, you're going to take them about 2 hours post. Like, say if you're going to have an antibiotic and then you're going to have that, you would take it about an hour to 2 hours after you take an antibiotic, because you want the antibiotic to clear out, but then you bring in a good probiotic to help bring in the good stuff for the immune support. But you don't want them to fight with each other because the antibiotic in turn is trying to get rid of the junk. So it will get rid of some of the good flora. So in turn, you're bringing back a probiotic to bring in the good flora again. So that's where the antibiotics become a little hairy, where people get like, oh, I don't want to take antibiotics. If it's needed, it's needed. But you have to, it's just the right balance. And, so just don't take them together. Give it at least an hour to 2 hour span. Another one that I'm going to be talking about is called Clostridium. Clostridium. Okay. That is a beneficial strain in reference to butyrate, gut lining, and inflammation. So these are just kind of small amounts of main names of probiotics that are used. Research that's been out recently in 2025, one that kind of came out that's kind of awesome is it highlights the role of probiotics in intestinal health. This came out by Renze et al. And he talks about, it's a very new study, the benefits of the gut health in probiotics and how it has improved the immune support, which, we know that. The problem is that there's, the research is still it's kind of in its infancy of research. It's been around starting since the 70s and 80s, but the newer, more what specific probiotics can be used, how can we use it? That's kind of the newer stuff. So trying to figure out what nutrients are needed. Is it fermented foods? So in this one, I was talking about like the fermented foods. It's saying functional properties of fermented foods and juices. So I think that probiotics are necessary. You don't have to necessarily take a pill, but fermented foods and are beneficial to build up in your intestinal health or in your immunity. Now, how do you get them? If you can get them from food, of course, and, building that up each and every day is available. Now, some individuals need to take these pills. Some individuals, the food is your friend. Think about the rainbow. They call it phytonutrient eating. The more colors that you have in your diets, the better off you are. So I'm talking about the different types of probiotics. Some are in pill form, but others, if you can get it in your foods, that would be always more beneficial. So think soups, think antioxidants, phytonutrient and phytochemicals in the body help reduce the inflammation within the body. How do we use that? Why is it so beneficial? It's the nutrition that will bring the gut biome back to its diversity. It will make it more diverse. So you bring in more phytonutrients, you bring in more fiber, you bring in more quality probiotics. Now, people take a supplement when we need to build up immune system a little bit more. Okay. Things that phytonutrients are such like, I'll go into another thing more on this and phytonutrients alone. I'll talk about that in another episode. But think like carrots, beta carotene, flavonoids, glucosinolates, phenic acids, terpenes like ginger, curcumin is the flavonoid acids, and all of that helps with the gut biome. So that's why that's so important. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd be glad to help. And today's episode was on probiotics. I don't know which one is your favorite. I'm not supporting anyone in particular. I use a couple, but definitely men's or women's health. One I recommend, take one for yourself depending upon your age. And like I said, at least 10 billion CFUs, and make sure it has at least 10 strains so that you have variety of probiotics if you are taking them, not just one. If it's just acidophilus, it's probably not really that adequate. When you're taking yogurt that has probiotics in them, that's excellent. That's totally fine. It only may have one or two, and that's okay. Your body will naturally get and use it to what it needs. But this is when we're actually maybe supplementing. And fermented foods are also helpful. I'll talk more about the natural ways of between the phytonutrients and other things. Hope you have a good rest of your day and make sure you make a mindful way each and every day. Thank you for listening to the Mindfully Integrative Show with Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, family nurse practitioner. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not the substitute for professional medical advice, diagnose or treat. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed our show, please support us by leaving a mindful review on Apple Podcast or your favorite streaming platform. Interested in being a guest or more information? Email us at info@mindfullyintegrative.com. For resources mentioned in the show, visit our website at www.mindfullyintegrative.com. You can also connect mindfully with Dr. Damaris on her social media links found on the site. May your strength and peace guide you to find a mindful way every day. Namaste.